Hi everyone, my name is Joan, Danica Joan, and I am leading the Custody Matters Facebook Live today. And I just wanted to welcome you. Thank you so much for coming. Today's topic we're talking about is awareness and family advocacy. So being the middle of March, we actually have something coming up in a little over a month, and it is Parental Alienation Awareness Day, April 25th. It was something that was instituted many years ago by an advocate, Sarvi Emo, and with Parental Alienation Awareness Organization, and she's not from the state of Florida. She's, I believe, let me look over here. The organization currently, there's a PAAOUSA.org, and that's based out of Illinois. And I believe Sarvi is located in Canada, if I have that right. So, but anyways, to acknowledge Sarvi, she created something called Bubbles of Love Day. So the whole point is when you think about the most treasured memories in a child's life, a lot of times they were some of the simplest things. They were, digging in the mud and playing in the rain and blowing bubbles. And it's really, when somebody has a jar of bubbles and they're blowing bubbles, it's infectious. It's something that every person goes back to their childhood, and it's hard to have a bad memory of times of blowing bubbles and all that. So on April 25th, it's the designated Parental Alienation Awareness Day. It's an opportunity for people. Some people, actually, this has become a global phenomenon. There are people who honor and celebrate Parental Alienation Awareness Day on April 25th around the planet, blowing bubbles. And it's so crazy because it's not just little tiny bubbles, the kind that you get at weddings. Some of them are full-on bubbles that people can put over their bodies, and and then they bring bubble machines and things like that. It can be as big or as small event as possible, but it is just an opportunity to really create a buzz, a conversation around the fact that when children, it's important that for a child to be whole and complete, they need to have love and affinity for both parents. Now, I specify for me that it's not always possible for them to have a relationship with both parents, and not due to the fault of the other co-parent. There might have been a situation, a criminal situation, or maybe even death or whatever, that prevents one parent from being in a child's life. And it may be that one parent who just chooses not to be in a child's life. But it is so important for a child to have love and affinity for the whole of themselves, both the female and the male side of themselves that creates their whole. And it's our job as their parents to make sure that we foster that love and affinity that they have for their whole self, and keep our own personal intentions, our own intentions to ourselves if it's negative. So Parental Alienation Awareness Day. Now, what I did, because April 25th floats around on different days of the week, a lot of times it's not necessarily convenient to celebrate it on April 25th. So I love parties, and I love celebrations and being positive and creating conversations. So I choose to make it Parental Alienation Awareness Month, April. April is Parental Alienation Awareness Month. So what do? This is something that you can really join in on, this whole thing, in a fun way, and it's really not overwhelming. It's not a big deal. So first of all, as an individual, you could go around. Actually, right now, March is the time to go buy bubbles, because I've discovered that if you wait till April to find bubbles, all of the dollar stores it's cleaned off the shelves. They've moved on to a different season. I don't know why March is it's a seasonal product that you can only find in March, but grab those bubbles now. Get the big bottles, not just the little tiny bottles. You can order the little tiny bottles at like party supply things and stuff like that, but you really want the big bottles because you want to make a real big impact and let a child have a lot of fun at this. So what do I do? You could pass out bubbles with a little label around it with, you know, to try to spread awareness to the organization. I want to show you the website. Let's see. I can't, I won't be able to do that. But there is a website called paaousa.org. And there's an organization, there's called bubblesoflove.com. And these particular websites kind of show you, give you a little bit of a rundown on how it is that you want to start an event, big or small. So let's see. First, I think the first thing I did was pass out bubbles to people in public places, coworkers, things like that. That was a very safe zone for me because I could talk about I could just start a conversation, and it was like there was no pressure, there was no feeling of I need to do a speech or something like that. Then the next level of it was I found a public park. I found a public park where I could set up a table and make it almost like a birthday party kind of setting, because I'd use pink and blue representing male and female, and I would put the literature on the table, and we would just set up these big trays of bubbles. And I'd always go to a park where there were the stay-at-home moms that all congregate around the lunchtime or whatever, or in the afternoon, so that the children can get their energies out at the playground. So it gave the children, the children are in a safe place where they're playing, but we're actually being able to be available to the parents. The kids play with the bubbles, and the parents ask any questions that they need to ask around parental alienation. So on the website, there are like talking points about what is parental alienation, and just to give you a rundown, because not everybody in this conversation has even heard of the term. Maybe you're new to this whole custody kind of situation. So it is very predictable that in many family situations that when the marriage doesn't work out, or when I say the marriage, I don't necessarily mean the marriage, it might be the relationship, the cohabitating of the two parents, the co-parents, doesn't work out. So we, a lot of times there's feelings around that. There's emotions, and there's hurt, and there's finger pointing and stuff like that. Like some of that, I'm talking the level of normal. Then there's the take it up 10 notches parental alienation. Now that's when a person is so hurt and so angry and so feeling abandoned and rejected that they take it over the top. They do everything to go to the jugular. They try to sever the relationship that the child has with their ex, and they will go to any extent to do that. They will file reports of false allegations of child abuse. They will file injunctions on behalf of the child against the other parent. They will even be to the level of recruiting the child into their warfare, just basically recruiting the community, the parents, the teachers, the principal, even anybody that they can think of, maybe even their ex's family members, to try to isolate the targeted parent, and do everything they can to hurt, to destroy their relationship or destroy them. And it's thank God that this is not something that is rampant as far as like in divorce and custody things, but there are, but it's definitely prevalent enough that there needs to be some awareness about it. So when you think about when a parent does everything they can to sabotage and destroy a child's view of the other parent, they're basically acting as the bully. And if a child is being taught that another parent is not to be respected, and is actually and even takes it even further than just not respecting them, that is training bully tactics onto to the child, and how is that going to impact that child's future? Well, if a child knows that it's okay to disrespect a parent, an authority figure, then if there's not too much of a gap between that and respecting their teacher, respecting their principal, respecting their employer, and respecting their coach. And when they're taught to do whatever it takes, lie, cheat, steal things from their co-parent, make false allegations, when they are taught to do that, there are no limits in society that leads to all kinds of crazy social problems in general that started at the home. So it's super important to understand its impact on society, because even though you may have a somewhat amicable relationship with your co-parent, that's wonderful, but understand that there's also indicators, there's that we're all as a society affected by children who have had half of themselves amputated from them. I mean, the impact on the child is the child feels that a part of themselves is not good enough. And then they start taking their bully tactics on other people, and classmates and stuff like that. So it's really important to understand it and its impact in how we can deal with this, because I've heard horrible stories. I've been through it myself, and I've also experienced that, coached people who've also gone through situations where their co-parent was targeting them, and that they didn't. It took huge amounts to restore relationships with their child, and many people, they do not ever get to restore the relationship. And then what do you do with that? That's like a death, but there's no body. It's horribly painful. So we do this. Okay, so back to the structure of this and how you can be a participant. So you can participate in an event, or you can create your own. So like what I did in Lakeland, Florida, actually I did it all over Central Florida, is I went every month, so actually sometimes twice a month, the city commission and the county commission, they convene for little, city meetings, and they are regularly accustomed to presenting organizations with proclamations. Proclamations are just an acknowledgement that the city, or sometimes the county commission will do it too, that will acknowledge this organization and deem it Parental Alienation Awareness Day, or Parental Alienation Awareness Month in my case. So, and there's actually a lot of pretty much the template, the cookie cutter template is out there that these organizations have created for you. So you just do step one, check, step two, check, and things like that. I've done it all over. I've got multiple proclamations over the years, and my goal is to go to the state of Florida, and I didn't plan it far enough in advance here in Florida to go after getting a proclamation from the state of Florida. But that is my goal for 2019 Parental Alienation Awareness Month. So what can you do? Well, if you are interested in getting a proclamation done, then you contact me, private message me or whatever, and I will, and I'll definitely show you the ropes. I'll tell you what you need to do. It's very simple. In fact, sometimes people who are a little bit afraid of standing up in front of the mayor and in a little, like a meeting room, being acknowledged, or who's afraid to kind of like talk. Because like the first time that I accepted a proclamation, I was just like, nervous and jittery and stuff like that. So it was very difficult for me to talk. But over time, you realize you kind of let that go and stuff like that, and it makes it much more comfortable. So if you want to just ask for a proclamation, a lot of times you don't actually have to be there to receive it. They'll just mail it back to you. Now you've got this paper. Now you've got this wonderful certificate that you can post off all over the social media outlets and just create more awareness. Now, I always do a bubble event, and it's not really, I think in some years I've been definitely have been bigger event years than others. Some people go to the extent of a formal public event where there's speakers and things like that. But I usually just make it a fun event where we're just blowing bubbles, and I have literature, and I usually pick like our city does a First Friday event. So First Friday evening, they shut off the streets downtown, and all of these people, they have the vendors and they have the tables and the literature and stuff like that. And so we will pick a spot in the First Friday with our literature, and we just blow bubbles, and then we're able to talk to all the adults and stuff like that, anybody who's interested in finding out more about the organization. So implementing the event is like super easy. Doing the requesting a proclamation from your city or your county is like a cookie cutter template, easy, a simple phone call. They know they've done it millions of times before, so they know it's like routine for them. So it's not like you're asking for like a major out of the boundaries event. So here's the other thing that I also do is I get to the radio station. I go to the radio station, I ask them to put me on the air, and they're in our radio station. It houses, I think, 4 different radio stations. So they basically move me, I spend 5 or 10 minutes on the air here, 5-10 minutes, and I just move it around. So in one morning, I'm out of there in an hour, and I have spoken to anybody who's listening on that radio station, on those 4 different radio stations, has heard the message of parental alienation, why it is that we do what we do. And then we go out and then they're invited to our little, bubbles event. And a lot of times the people who are generally invited are not necessarily going to show up. You end up with a totally different population of people who are actually at the event. Because think about it, you heard the people on the radio, maybe they didn't show up, but the people at the First Friday event who didn't hear it on the radio, they get to hear it freshly and newly, straight face to face with you. So it's like masterful. I tell you what, Sarvi, Emo, and all of the other advocates that have created, who've perpetuated this, have done an amazing job of creating awareness and doing it in such a simple way that anybody can participate and can head this on. Speaking of heading things up, my organization is located in Lakeland, Florida, right on the I-4 corridor between Tampa and Orlando. We have classrooms in Castleberry. We have classrooms in Lakeland and in Hillsborough County, all over, and we're always looking for expansion. I spoke to one of the advocates, Caroline, and earlier this week, and she lives down. Well, I shouldn't say where she lives, but anyways, I'm looking for advocates who are interested in expanding our organization down in South Florida, up in North Florida, and even in the other states. So what would that look like? That would require a conversation, because we can create whatever it is that you want to create. I know some advocates, they just really have a passion, and they have a lot of irons in the fire and stuff like that, and they're just looking for somebody to partner with. So I wanted to put it out there with that. I know with us, our services that we offer is the co-parenting curriculum, which now is approved in 42 of the 50 United States. So that's one educational program. And then of course, as a mediator and a divorce coach, we also have services. I'm throwing that out there, not to really, do a PSA, as much as if you are interested in being a lead advocate, if you're interested in heading up a Bubbles of a Love event, or if or doing anything around the bubbles of love, you know, things like that, let me know. And I'll do what I can to help you create something really great for your community. So that is about it. I think, let me see, there was something that I did pick up on the thread today that I did want to address, since I have a couple of more minutes to do that. So I got on the thread, I read about Gary, and who was looking for some guidance and all that. And I really just wanted to address the fact that, you know, when I think that the struggle was around separating from his spouse, and really not quite ready to let that go. And I wanted to address that. So the thing is, okay, so here's the thing is, a lot of times we do have to take a step back. And we know that everybody pretty much knows that a child is, you know, in their comfort zone. A child, doesn't matter how functional or dysfunctional the intact family is, doesn't matter how dysfunctional it is, a child wants to keep the security of the intact family. And yet we as adults, we've got to be really, careful to not use, kind of use that against our ex. Like if we're not interested in splitting up the marriage, a lot of times we're grasping at everything. We're grasping at the hurts and the suffering of the child. And then that ends up being sort of like a guilt trip to the other parent and all that. And I'm just going to say that I know it's what you feel, but it's not necessarily what's going to give you your desired results, as far as talking to the parent about kind of using the child's emotions as leverage to try to get something that keep a relationship. So I would say to you, you need to take a step back and understand that the survival of a relatedness, a love and affinity for your ex is more important than trying to force a marriage to stay together. Because to be honest, if it gets to the point, if a relationship's gotten to the point where one person chooses to step out, I promise you that they've probably thought on it long and hard before they actually did the thing. And I'm not saying that relationships cannot get back together. I'm saying that it has more of a chance of surviving and restoring if we give it breathing room to allow it to go in the direction that it needs to go. And so, and that's a difficult thing. It is not easy because you're emotionally attached to this. You've got skin in the game with that. You do have your heart involved and your child. I call our children the loves of our life, because it just seems like it, because it just is. I know, and we don't want our child to suffer no matter what. And so anyways, I'm trying to be as general as possible, because I don't want to point anybody out in the group, because I love you all, and I want to do everything I can to be of service to you. So if you would like to talk to me one-on-one, Gary, or anybody else, please private message me. I am here of service to you. So have a wonderful afternoon, evening, and a wonderful weekend. And I will see you at the first of the week. And just remember that we're here for you.